You
Yeah.
left a successful career after
Yeah.
10 years
Yeah.
for a startup,
Mhm.
a tech and talent startup
Yeah.
of a fitness app.
Yeah.
So how did that
How did that transition
come to
happen?
be?
Yeah. It's an interesting story. So I'd been there for 10 years. Obviously, a lot of life happens in your 20s, going into your 30s. I had just had my first son, and having a job like that, which it's really a lifestyle job. When I say that, I don't mean it's relaxed and no pressure. It's more of you have a breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. You're on the road constantly. Stuff is happening on weekends. It could be pretty unpredictable. I found myself in a situation where I had this beautiful baby boy at home, and I just didn't know how I was going to make that life work long term. And I knew that if I wanted to continue to excel in my career, I needed to do all of those things. I was in a place where I was reevaluating and thinking about what this next chapter had to unfold. And my very good friend, my really best friend at CA was Mark, my business partner, who you also know. He had this idea of creating like a network for fitness. So think like MTV back in the day, like that's what, but like all fitness. And he had talked to people about it and he had wanted to do it. And he mentioned it to me. And I was at the point where fitness was always something that I did and I loved. So it's Soul Cycle or whatever the classes were. And it got really hard, obviously, when I had my son. I think that idea started to resonate with me. And at the same time, all of the SVOD platforms, so like the Hulus and OTTs, et cetera, they were blowing up. And that sounds like obvious today, but at the time it wasn't, because we were really like selling to broadcasting cable. And at the same time, there was like all these people that were coming to me for CA clients who wanted to create subscription services around an individual talent. So sort of like all these things that like came together at the same time and made me think, okay, there's an opportunity to do a fitness network, but to do it on a digital platform. There's not a huge barrier to entry in terms of the tech and engineering because these platforms exist. But in terms of the actual experience that I wanted to create something that was immersive and fun and that would like help you get out of your head and into your body when you're exercising at home. When I grew up, my mom was doing Richard Simmons and Jane Fonda in the basement. So like I knew that that was possible. But what was different now is you didn't need VHS tapes and do the same workout again and again with the same jokes and what have you. And you could do something that was fun and immersive and live. So we launched with 4 different types of fitness classes. So it was a sculpt class, dance, cardio. So it was more of the like creative movement. And then on the more functional side, it was a circuit class for cardio and then a strength class. And then over time, we certainly expanded into, I think Obey now has like 20 plus class types.
So when you started, you had the 4 class
Mm-hmm.
types. You started with a studio.
Yes.
Like you had a very specific vision, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm very aesthetically driven. And there were things I loved and that I noticed was that like the set was very simple.
Mm-hmm.
It was colored lit
Mm-hmm.
walls that were like a 16:9, like the aspect ratio of a screen.
Yes.
And the instructors, they're all
Yeah.
beautiful, charismatic people.
Yeah.
That was that all your
Yes.
specific vision for it?
Yes. So what we know obviously about consumer brands is that you need to have a really distinctive brand and aesthetic that you bring to market. So we launched in 2018. So a lot of this planning was happening in 2016, 2017. Digital fitness, like no one had really heard of it. Peloton was this big and it was very functional rides. It wasn't what it ultimately became. And so it was obviously a very, very nascent category. And what was cool about that is that we could do sort of like whatever we wanted. And there were no rules in terms of what something had to look and feel like. And so when we built that set, obviously the idea, and we didn't have a lot of space or a lot of money. And so that 16:9 was a really important thing because what 16:9 allows you to do is to create a whole world that takes up the entire screen. And it never felt like you were working out in some like weird room with like plants like that. That's what a lot of influencers end up doing. But yeah, that was the 16:9 piece and why that was so important. And the other thing that we did was we were really inspired by James Turrell and Dan Flavin, who are 2 incredible contemporary light artists. What we really wanted to do was to create this like light box that would shift and change color so that again it could help you get out of your head and into your body. And I think when you're exercising at home and you're likely exercising in the morning and you're in a dark space, talk about like a shot of espresso to wake you up. It's like the light just like totally takes over and it does wake you up and it makes you feel good. And there was a lot of like research I did around like light therapy and, what are the right colors to get people excited. And so that's why you see like some sunrises and there's a lot of pink. Yeah. And then the wardrobing was, how do you create contrast so that obviously you can see the body. And then lastly, coming from the entertainment space, we obviously knew what like good production values looked like. And so with the music and the lighting and the way that we moved cameras and all of that, yeah, that was sort of this really fun exercise in producing and creating intimacy. And to your point, casting instructors that not only were, great technicians of the body and could come up with great workouts, but also they could make you feel something at home, and they could really like help you feel inspired and encouraged and to keep coming back.